My name is Geshard, artist, curator, collector, and co-owner of Gallery Guichard.
And I'm Frances Geshard, also known as the artist Marlene Campbell, curator, collector, and co-owner of Gallery Guichard.
Welcome back to Gallery Guichard virtually. This is our first exhibition of the 2021 season. And just like back in 2019, before COVID and quarantine, we would have an exhibition and an artist talk. So we're going to continue with that tradition virtually as we did all of 2020 virtually. And we have an amazing show in store for you and an amazing exhibit entitled This Is Us.
We thought we'd take a break after our 2020 December exhibit, but we couldn't because our artists continue to paint amazing works and our collectors are continuing to ask for it.
It's almost like Christmas every month at Gallery Guichard because our artists are extremely prolific and they're continuing to create during COVID, which is really feeding the need for uplifting energy that they're getting off the work. So because of that, we decided instead of waiting until the summer to continue with the trolley tour, we would continue with our exhibition schedule starting this month with This Is Us. Tonight, we have 8 amazing artists that we're going to take you to their studios so you can listen to them and learn what was the inspiration behind these amazing works in this Is Us exhibition.
We'd like to introduce to you Stephen Shayo Olalekan.
Welcome back. This is Geishard.
And I'm Frances Geshard.
And we are here at the This Is Us exhibition at Gallery Guichard virtually. And I'm very excited to have a conversation with one of my very close friends, business and professionally and personally. And I'm very proud to have this relationship with Abiola Akintola, who is going to be talking with us about the amazing work of one of our participating gallery artists, Stephen Olalekan. And without further ado, I just want to jump out and say, how are you, Abiola? Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you too. Francis, how are you today?
Doing well. You look great. That's a wonderful painting behind you too.
Yes.
That's like hard work.
Yes. Stephen Olalekan. Amazing. So, Abiola, I'm really blessed to have this conversation to you because I really can't talk enough about our friendship, but more importantly, what I really admire about you and your willingness to give back and mentor so many amazing artists. I like to think of who you are and what you represent as a Benin village in America, and what you're doing in the production and the seeds. And I think about Stephen Olalekan as one of the seeds of this relationship. And we'd like to talk a bit about his work, and specifically starting with the work similar to the piece behind you. And it's a new piece that we have, which is coming on the screen shortly, that really speaks to one of the issues in our society that isn't getting a lot of media attention.
Stephen's work very reflective of nature and who we are. And I mean, like most artists, when we were in high school or elementary school, we always try to borrow from nature. But when I met Olalekan Stephen, I kind of tried to let him know that he should be able to just be himself, So he tried to gravitate towards that. And to be himself, meaning that he has to be able to learn his own figures, apart from the things that we've learned from the school. And knowing that, he wants us to know how to deconstruct, So the school will teach you how to do certain things in a perfect way, which you have to use that experience to pass your grades, so to speak. But in the natural world, to be creative is good, but to be imaginative is even better. So that is what Shayo is been experimenting over the years. So when we are in the studio, we not only try to express ourselves, we would like to mix that with expression with a feeling that is emotion. Emotion to us is like energy, emotion. And that is what he's been trying to do for the past few years. So that's the idea. And I believe he used a form of fabric. He's tried to make that into forms. And these forms are called organic forms. That is, forms that are born out of nature or out of emotion of the artist. So in other words, it's going to be challenging for him to do exactly the same piece all over again. So because the organic forms, they have their own, they are rooted into the emotion of the artist, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's like telling a joke. You cannot tell a joke twice, or else you're going to ruin the joke, you know. So that is the emotional part of the abstract behind me right here. That is the feeling that is just born spontaneously, you know. So it's the birth of spontaneity, so to speak.
I get it. And what I also love about Stephen Olaleke, and not only his, fact that he produces and he just continues to create so many amazing works, but the fact that his range, which this new work in his charcoal series and the piece specifically, the woman with the very large afro, and how it just makes, for those of us African American, it really helps us to connect back to Africa. And if you could tell us a little more about the importance of highlighting our features and our hair and why that's an important part of that series for Stephen.
Because he captured This Is Us.
Oh yeah, I believe that the air represents, like I was saying a while ago, nature, something that is natural. And we grew up in the village called Okeo. That's where me and Shayo Olaleke are from. And you see women, braid their hair or do the afro, which is very, very African. That is, they want to be very authentic and unique. It's not a copy of something else or somebody else. So, like Shayo has been trying to experiment with the strokes, those strokes have become him, he has become Shayo. That is his way of expression. As you can see, those strokes are those are his signatures. And he tries to now incorporate that with afros, trying to use his background from a village or from Nigeria, so to speak, to express his forms, shapes, and sometimes texture, because sometimes you will see him put like the afro, the neck of the woman, instead of putting like a jewelry, he will put like a scarf. And those scarves are very representative of African culture. So in other words, the afro is very symbolic of Shire. You can just see his work and just say, that's Shire right there.
I love
and
it.
I like how he's using the mixed media. Tell us a little bit about, what encourages him to, create in the different one. He has such a very diverse fingerprint and works in different mediums, but what encourages him to work in these mediums that he's working in? What is it that?
Experiment and set aside oneself is another thing. He's trying to not only just be stagnant, knowing that he can use the formulas of his drawing techniques, but that's not enough. So by engaging other materials, so that is using the synthetic plus the organic materials or the forms. So he tried to synchronize that to express himself. But the one thing that I really noticed about that is that he's tried to add colors as well. If people don't notice that he has a ton of brownish colors that are earthy in those brown and those gray scales, you
Those
know.
grayscales,
So,
right? I have another question about the charcoal drawings.
mm,
For so long, even myself as a collector and as an artist, watching how that medium is typically displayed, and it's usually under glass, so you don't get to enjoy the charcoal close. But Shayo has found a way to work with the charcoal on canvas, but yet it doesn't get all over you, and you can enjoy the charcoal up close.
yes,
How was that intentional?
very intentional. You know, there's a way of fixing the work. So there are many layers of charcoals. There are stages. At first, you sketch the thing out, that is, you figure out first, and he has to now try to find the shades, the values, and the gradients, we call it in art. And of course, you know that. So now, after that, he has to go outside and fix it with a fixative. The fixative will now let him come back after many hours to start, highlighting the areas of interest. But the most gravitating part of it is the look. So you can see Shire's work sometimes, he puts some seriousness in the face. So he's trying to let you look at something before you look at the other thing. He's trying to direct you the way he wants you to look.
The eye.
And I was going to say those piercing eyes. I don't care where you are in a room, those eyes will follow you. He could put those in a bank and it would be no more robberies.
Oh, yeah. They're well planned out. Let me just put it that way. Intentional. Yes.
They're warming. They're not intimidating to me. I feel comfortable with them, and I feel as though they have a story behind them.
And they feel like they go to the soul of the subject, which is
yeah, of course, yes.
Look at the one over my left shoulder. She's like looking directly at us and saying something.
Oh, yeah. I like that piece. Yes. So that's beautiful. Yes.
Isn't that beautiful?
And
yes. And, there is something we learned when we were in school about the pyramid. So, the portrait is the head and shoulder, right? But most artists, the first artist to break the rule of portraiture happens to be Leonardo da Vinci. And that is why the Mona Lisa was not only an experimental piece, but at the same time, the piece that broke the conventional way of drawing. Before, people used to draw portraitures like stagnant and just like you take your driver's license. But now, if you see that Shire's piece, for the most part, so it's looking sideways, just like you see that Mona Lisa. And if you can draw a line from the top of the head to the shoulder, you're going to see that triangle, which is pyramidal. So that will engage the eye of the onlooker, because with that, with the triangle and the square, which is the canvas, it's a juxtaposition of idea.
Love it.
Right.
And, for years, we have always said you're a teacher, and you continue to teach not only your proteges, but the world and your friends. And I love your approach to art. It's very clean and clear.
Yes. Thank you, Abby.
You're very welcome. And I really enjoy working with you as well. And both of you have been phenomenal artists, and I respect that a lot.
Thank you. So I would just like to close with, once again, the ability to live in a time with so many great artists, but the prolificness of Stephen. And, it's every month, it's like Christmas, something new and fresh, and you're excited. So I'm inviting everyone who's watching this to please visit virtual exhibition catalog number 10, and you can see these amazing works, and you can drop down into the gallery and walk around and press the meta tag so you can get more information about the title, medium, and price. But so happy to have this time with you, Abiola.
And don't forget, you can visit our website at www.galleryguichard.com to see Shayo's work and Abiola's work as well.
All right.
Exactly. And I just want to give a shout out to
And Nikia.
Stephen Olalekan on selling one of the pieces already before the show opened.
Right.
So, boy, what about your competitors?
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. God
All right,
bless you.
as always.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Francis.
See you soon.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Our next artist, Peter Olawabe, who is an emerging artist who has just started with us 4 months ago, but his energy with that distinctive fingerprint with the small pieces of chopped wood that helped create the textures for this amazing group of jazz and dance inspired works. Welcome back. This is Andre Geishard here at the This Is Us exhibition virtually at Gallery Guichard.
I'm Francis Geshard.
And we are very excited to have one of our emerging Gallery Guichard artists who is what I would say right now on fire, because every work he's dropped off since maybe the summer has sold. And we've been blessed to have some of his new work. Please welcome Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you back, and really excited about this new body of work, because we were talking about how it just fits perfectly with our new title of This Is Us, which is just about being who we are.
Exactly. And our feelings, our emotions, how we carry ourselves. And your work, to me, speaks to the essence of who we are as far as entertainment and dance. And so we'll let you talk.
So tell us about the first painting of the dancers, and congratulations, by the way, on
Yes.
again, off to a great start. But tell us a little bit about the story behind that piece.
Actually, the Lost in You dance really come from one of the old picture that my wife and I took over 10 years ago.
Nice.
I was just reminiscing, with the pictures I have at home. Eventually, my heart caught up on the dance one. Then I start, take it to the gallery, to start working on it. Then I brought it to life,
Love it.
Yes.
Well, they say art imitates life, right?
Yes.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just tell us a little bit about like the medium of the wood and the colors that you use. They're so vibrant, and they really, give us a feeling of energy and movement within your work.
Actually, I love colors, to play with colors. Then I love wood too.
Mm.
Because come from the same family. The material I'm using is is from the wood, sawdust, wood chip, and plywood.
Love it. I want to commend you on creating a unique style, a unique fingerprint that whenever now you see that work, no one has to look at the signature. They know that's a Peter.
Right.
What drew you to wood? Because that was very creative.
It's not something I really planned. If you see my first work, I first start doing, if you see that this transform is different, I start progressing, with the first one I did. I said, let me try this. And eventually it worked for me,
Love it. Nice. And it does work, as it gives you the volume and the movement. I think it just like the whole body's moving or something,
Oh, yes.
Nice. The next piece is one of the jazz series pieces. And if you could tell us a little bit about the bass player and that series and the meaning or the inspiration, maybe more so.
I love music. Then I love instruments. To know how to play instrument, I know how to play a little bit of guitar.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
I just said, let me put that into piece, you know, to try to do that as one of my paintings, you know.
Peter, when you create your work, where do you create and what kind of mood are you in? Do you play music? Are you in a studio where you have to cut up your sawdust and it's more industrial, or is it just, you know, a glass of wine and painting? What is it like?
I try to music. Music make me think well, you know. When I'm in my mood, I like to listen to music to recollect my brain, you know, to think about other things to do.
Love it. And I like how you rotate from different genre, whether it's about love and people, but then you always come back to your landscapes. And this recent
That's
landscape
beautiful.
is just so beautiful. And if you
Thank
could
you.
tell us
Thank
about, you know, your inspiration there, is that local or are those pictures from home that inspire you?
That's local, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah.
Nice.
You know, really think. I just said, because I was having a conversation with my brother-in-law one day, you know, and I asking her, what about if I start doing the landscape, you know, to do different with my wool? And he said, oh, you know what, you can try. You know, that was my first one.
Love
and
it.
I tried, it worked for me. You know what, I will start doing different kind of landscape with my, you know, work I've been doing.
It communicate, your fingerprint communicates very well with any subject matter, but I really love the calmness of your landscapes.
Right, and the colors within that landscape too, and the depth of field, very nice.
Well, once
Thank
again,
you.
Peter, all I can say is you are a rising star, and we're just
Thank you.
very proud to have gotten to know your work and happy to be able to share your creativity with our followers. And we want to remind everyone to make sure they visit the virtual exhibition catalog number 10 to see your work in this new This Is Us exhibition. And you can move around the gallery and touch the meta tag and get the information about the pricing and the mediums. But like, you're already off to a good start, and all of the shows we've had, you are always a sellout. So I don't imagine it'll be any different this time.
Right, they'll be able to go to our website at www.galleryguichard.com and see our virtual exhibition catalog.
And take the tour. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Drop down into Gallery Guichard virtually and explore the new exhibition by touching the circles on the floor to move around. And then next to each painting, the matter tag will give you information about the title, medium, artist, and price. And I want to give one last shout out to the fact that your work in this catalog number 10 and all of the previous catalogs will be archived in the Metropolitan Museum of New York. So we're very proud that your work will be archived with some of the greatest contemporary catalogs of artists from around the world. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And see you next time, and keep on working. I love the prolific.
Oh, wait.
Yes, don't stop, because now people are hungry.
I can't wait to see the next art paintings you have.
Exactly.
Paintings.
Happy New Year and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And now we'd like to introduce to you a new artist to Gallery Guichard, Isiaka, working in African fabric and Kara fabric.
Welcome back. This is Andre Geishard.
And I'm Francis. How are you?
And we're excited to welcome our newest Gallery Guichard artist, amazing artist from Nigeria, Isiaka.
Hi, Isiaka.
Hi, how are you? How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
Excellent.
I'm excited to talk about your new work in our This Is Us exhibition, and your work fits very closely in that because it just celebrates some of the themes about who we are, family and love and beauty. But one of the pieces in particular, what is that?
Motherhood.
Motherhood is really one we'd like to start about. If you could tell us a little bit about the motivation and inspiration on that piece.
I say kind of how our mother is very strong in the life of a in their child, in their children. When the dad go out to look for food and look for something to feed the family, mostly mother for the first time for the first 4 or 5 months when the baby comes to alive, the mother is the one that always take care of the baby. Whether it's cold, rain, snow, they always want to see you. So mother have a big role to play in their children's life.
I agree.
Beautiful.
What are the mediums?
So you're using the Ankara cloth as well.
I use Ankara cloth. See, because Ankara is really transparent, kind of show African culture, first of all, and it show how, because like that Ankara is is common in majority of African people. When you see them putting on and with their baby, and they use it to wrap their baby up. You see if you see the baby that is behind the mother, it's back of the mother. Yeah, that's what they use. They use the Ankara to wrap him up. And when you see them when they use the Ankara for the hair tie too. And they look beautiful with the Ankara. See? So very excited to see them with their baby,
I love how you juxtapose that with you're using acrylic paint, and tell us a little bit more about the other mediums you're using in your work.
I use acrylic paint, and I use knife to do the painting. Sometimes I use a little bit brush, but mostly I use a palette knife to do the painting. I love using acrylic. Acrylic is so easy to control for me, and to use acrylic paint.
Love it.
Yeah.
And another part about This Is Us is
and as I said, acrylic is the most easy. So I say I use acrylic paint, which is very easy for me to control. And it's very, that it's not cheap, it's expensive paint. No, it's not like other paint. People use oil paint, but I prefer using acrylic paint with a brush and using it with a palette knife, which I use mostly in that painting. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you studied. Was it in Nigeria or in America?
So I went to Institute of Textile Technology, Art and Design. That's a big challenge because in the school, you will see a kind of a different society where you wish to join. Unfortunately, I was lucky. We have a group where we call it ZAC Club. This ZAC Club is a kind of, when you have a homework, they give you homework, you have a kind of a live drawing, they tell you what to draw and what to bring to the class in second day. Then what we do in this ZAC Club is like we are about 20 of us in the club. So we come together and said, okay, what is your idea? So we give ourselves challenge, whereby you have to explain what you want to do, because we have somebody who heard us. It's a kind of a club, but this club is for art. We just for us to share idea together, to see that what you are going to produce is going to become a masterpiece. So when you do it on paper, before it will go for production, so they will teach you all those ones when in fashion school. Even though when I was in school, in art school too, Institute of Textile Technology, Art and Design is in Nigeria. So they will teach you how to make a sketch about this Ankara and how to paint it to look like real Ankara. But when you're looking at it, you will think that maybe you're touching Ankara, until when you touch it, you will see that, oh, this is paperwork. But looking at it from far, you think that you is looking at it, it look like an Ankara. So they will teach you how to do that one. So, and again, that you will learn how to do batik. We call it textile, tie and dye and batik. Tie and dye and batik is like tying a clothes. That was part of the art school. Tying a clothes, they tell you the kind of chemical you're going to use to dye the cloth to make it come out beautiful. Different pattern.
Wow.
After when I graduated, I went, then I decided to go and teach. I teach in a fashion school, which I teach almost like 6 years.
I like how you are mixing the experiences from those different disciplines, from fashion and fine art. And is that how you came up with your style, your fingerprint? It's a combination of those.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome.
That's awesome. And tell us a little bit about the piece behind you.
Yes, the one you're working on.
Behind me. Is that, what is it?
Yes, tell us about the painting that you're working on behind you.
Yeah, that piece about me was like, oh, it's my daughter, that's my 5 years daughter. When I see her every day, it's like, that's why I call her mirror. That's why I call that piece is mirror. It's every parent. It's like when you see a mirror, you don't want the mirror to break, right? You don't want the mirror to break.
Bad luck.
Yeah. So, you know, your kid is your mirror. So that's why I call it mirror. So it's my baby in the house. So every time I saw her, I always like, oh, it's like, seeing you too, it's like when you see your kid in the morning, you look at your kid, you feel happy, you feel comfortable with it. It's
That's
like
so
you see
true.
yourself.
What
that's
medium?
Yeah, what medium are you using?
What medium is it made of?
That medium I'm using is like, I know you have not seen it before, but you have seen it before. I'm using the button.
Say it again.
Button.
Oh, wow,
buttons.
Nice.
Awesome.
I can't wait to see that.
Will the
background have buttons also, or will you keep?
Is that the way she is was like she put on a kind of a scarf to cover herself up to some level.
Oh.
I will put on the scarf with the button.
Nice.
Then the other background I will paint the other background. Just one color.
So will you use your fingerprint with the Akira cloth on that also, or will you paint the Akira?
No, I won't use cloth on this. I'm using button.
Oh, okay, but the buttons will look like a cloth.
Yeah, the button will look like a cloth. Yeah.
Nice.
But I have another pieces I'm working on now, which I didn't finish yet. That one I'm using Ankara and button.
Nice.
We have to make sure our audience sees that finished product.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Of course.
The great thing about this exhibit with the two pieces, they'll be able to go to our virtual exhibition catalog number 10 and visit the exhibition and drop down and see your work and learn more about it, the title, the price, and it's really easy because you can move around by pushing the circles and then contact us to come and see it in person. But people can literally drop into the gallery, walk around 24 hours with their family. And take the tour. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Drop down into Gallery Guichard virtually and explore the new exhibition by touching the circles on the floor to move around. And then next to each painting, the matter tag will give you information about the title, medium, artist, and price. Family. So I'm glad your work will be part of that in the show.
Right. They can find it on our website at www.galleryguichard.com.
Excellent. Well, it has been an honor to learn more about your work and to see the process of the new work. And we look forward to a long relationship with you and spreading your creativity to our audience.
Thank you, Isiaka. Really appreciate you and the time you spent today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me today.
You are so welcome, and take care and stay safe.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
It is my pleasure to introduce our next artist, Akin. also a new emerging artist with Gallery Guichard, whose fingerprint is screws, as a matter of fact, Phillips screw heads, and now he's introduced bike chain in such a creative and elegant way. Without further ado, Akin. Welcome back. This is Andre Geishard.
And I'm Frances Geshard.
And we are privileged to be interviewing a wonderful new artist to the gallery. And he's new only because it's less than 6 months, but he's not new as it relates to the quantity of work he's been able to produce and the number of sales for new artists.
Absolutely.
Fresh out, he's sold out every show so far. And Akin, welcome back.
Well, good to have you. Good to have me on your show.
And as you can see, I'm always excited. I'm truly a fan of your work and
Thank you, sir.
And your process. So we are here virtually for the This Is Us exhibition here at Gallery Guichard. And I'd just like to start off with one of the pieces, Queen of the Nile.
Yes.
And I just love how you introduced a new medium, bike chain, into this piece for the bun. But
Yes.
tell me about your creativity and how that flows for you and how you came up with that.
Yes, I think with the way the world is going and you think about how we need to recycle things, you know, we find out that human beings were the ones kind of, I wouldn't say destroying the earth, but it's like we need to recycle it. And I started by calling bike shops and seeing what we can do instead of them just throwing these things out. You know what I mean? And that was what actually brought it there. Like, okay, let's see how we can infuse that into art.
Love it, love it, love it. And that creativity and imagination, I think,
yes,
is, we were talking with Abiola on another call, how technique is important, but that imagination is just so important.
Yes, thank you.
And you know, your medium, even though it's industrial, the bike chain, the nails, it still has a very softness to it. And what motivates you to create the softness to something that's hard?
I think I've always had this fascination with construction, and I do a lot of work around the house and all that. And I just felt like, how could I apply this into art? And there's this thing about, a lot of my friends call me a feminist, and this thing about women, you know what I mean? Our mothers, our sisters, and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, most of my images, if you could say, it's pretty much women, you know? And I think there's this fascination and the respect for women. That's why I guess that would be the softness of it, you know, and the metal and the femininity of, you know, women. That's it. Yeah.
I love that analogy about the hard and soft. And you think about our African mothers, our African-American mothers, you know, how they're beautiful but strong. And right now they're getting the credit for this previous election on moving the needle.
Oh my God.
Talk about the woman. So I think you're on to something with that.
Yes. Thank you.
So the lady in red, tell me a little bit about her. She's a beautiful piece. You mentioned the Queen, Andre talked about it, the Queen of the Nile, but tell us a little bit about the clothing and, you know, where does that originate?
The Queen of the Nile, I think it's leads back to North Africa. And with a veil on the head, I think it has to, not necessarily a religious belief, but it has to do with the heat, you know what I mean, which covers them and the beauty and everything like that. And I think it just goes back to where we all originate from, which is important, and knowing where we come from, and we have to embrace it. You know what I mean? It's who we are and what we are, and we have to be proud of it.
Love
it. This is us.
This is us.
Yes, this is us. There's nothing we can do about it.
And I'm going to speak on Queen of the Nile a little bit, because what struck me was the density of the screws. You know, they're so dense that there's really no space but you feel the volume of the woman as though there were a body underneath
Yes.
there. And I just want to say that
The quality, I think I had to, the variations, if you see they're somewhere in and out, and I think it took me a long time and overthink it too about trying to be perfect with it, you know what I mean? But then I didn't want to go too far into it where you kind of mess, you know what I mean? Kind of mess it up. But then I found out, like, you know what? There's really nothing perfect. You know what I mean? We're not perfect. It'll never be perfect. You know, we are just who we are, you know, and that's why you find a lot of variations in the body and the face and everything, you know.
Love it. Love it. And then lastly, the eyes. I just found the eyes to be very striking. They kind of draw you in almost.
And piercing, yeah.
Yes. Love it.
And it's like looking into the soul. You know, they have to make this connection with it. I guess the soul is in the eyes. That's why we have to look at each other in the eyes when we talk to know if you're speaking the truth or not, you know?
Right. And you feel that, like she is piercing you, literally.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Well, all I can say is it is such a pleasure to work with such a prolific artist. And your hunger for sharing your creativity and creating is so much appreciated. And
thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me. I know there are a lot of people that want this opportunity, but it's a honor.
Thank you.
For you guys for having me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And your followers appreciate you too. You're starting to get quite a following. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
You can see Akin's work on the virtual exhibition catalog, where you drop right down into it, walk around, take a look at the work, get close up, see those screws with the color and the bike chain, and then take a look and purchase on our website at www.galleryguichard.com.
And as I say, in the case of Akin, study long, study wrong.
That's true.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you, Akin.
Take care, brother. Always good seeing you.
Have a good one.
And take the tour. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Drop down into Gallery Guichard virtually and explore the new exhibition by touching the circles on the floor to move around. And then next to each painting, the matter tag will give you information about the title, medium, artist, and price.
Next, we have Alpha Bruton, a resident of the Bronzeville Artist Lofts and has been working with us for quite some time. And her work is amazing, talking about social justice and civil rights.
Welcome back to Gallery Guichard virtually. My name is Andre Geishard, artist, co-owner of Gallery Guichard.
And I'm Frances Geshard, artist and co-owner.
And we are very happy to welcome you to our vertical exhibition catalog number 10. And the new title of the show?
The new title of this show is This Is Us. And again, it's about who we are. And we have one of our accomplished artists talking about social justice. And we're going to talk about that one in this segment.
So this artist that we're going to introduce you to is not only a friend, but one of the Bronzeville Artist Lofts, an amazing artist with a 25+ year history, and just really happy to welcome Alpha Bruton back to Gallery Guichard in this wonderful exhibit, because I think your work speaks to so many things, but in particular, the social justice is just amazing. So
yes,
welcome,
hi Alpha.
Hi, how are you guys? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Our first exhibition of 2021, and we were going to take a pause, but we decided, because of artists like you are still painting and are prolific, we have to continue to share, and we're very happy to have you and particularly talk about this new body of work, and it's from your social justice series. So maybe you could just give us a little background about who you are, how long you've been painting, and your focus on social justice, how long that's been, before we get into the questions about the pieces.
Well, great, great. Thank you guys for inviting me to come back this year and to be a part of this collection for 2021 and being able to talk about This Is Us. When you asked me to bring some pieces down, because I'm here at the Bronzeville Artist Loft, room 205, right above the gallery, and I came in and again invested into the community in 2014. So it's been just an exciting ride. We've been here now, this is our 7th year coming into being a part of the art district here in Bronzeville. And so a lot of my work has been inspired by some of the artists in the collection, some of the artists that work here and live and work here. So we kind of all take from each other in terms of the work we're producing, but we're also different. I have a very cross-section of art that I produce, and a lot of it is because of my art education background, where I've learned different mediums along the way. But the pieces that I put into the exhibit and that speak about art and social justice is a mixed medium piece and a collage piece. And it's speaking on, if you look into the piece, it's speaking on not only the cotton fields that we all talk about, but it's also the tobacco fields that have made big business. And it goes all the way to the Twin Towers being on fire, and from the fields of the sharecroppers. And that sharecroppers, of course, were the African-American, slaves that were freed through emancipation. So I just went through the whole timeline, from emancipation and the sharecroppers through the art and social justice of the Panther Party, and also the crisis, with W. Du Bois and that newspaper that went out about social justice. And a lot of us don't talk about him in the communist socialist perspective when you think about the formation of the NAACP. So I wanted to put those integral parts of our history into that piece. And so when you stand in front of it, you can't study it, but the gist of it is how we as African Americans freed slaves and went through the whole Reconstruction, and how our labor is still being used in those tobacco fields in the South, in that Fortune 500 area that everybody has basically Trump tight, and still making money off of Black labor. So that piece, that's my narrative. And a lot of my art and social justice pieces have the narratives that go with them about, the social climate and what's happening with us.
And Alpha, you're from the West Coast, Northern California. What about coming from Northern California inspired you to get into social justice and to speak the narrative in your subject matter?
I actually am from the Central San Joaquin Valley, which is Fresno, California. And even as a young person, I learned about African-American culture through African-American studies. In my undergraduate work, I have an emphasis in African-American studies. I learned about art, and I was going there studying art, but also I was faced with bigotry, racism. We're talking about the Klan still walks the state capitol, or still walks on City Hall. They march in their gowns. And this is the Central San Joaquin Valley, Fresno. That's where I grew up. And so I saw that. And we're talking about the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. They're still doing that, right? So so I shifted the gear because I needed to learn about myself and because I was in a history class and the instructor says, we're gonna learn about African-American history, Negro history in 1 week. And how Adam Clayton Powell was a disgrace to the Black, right? So I was only Black person in the class. So the white people laughing, other students laughing, nervous laugh or whatever at me, and I didn't feel it was funny. And I dropped that class. I was introduced into Kahende Sawazi, is an African-American instructor. And I went in and I started from that one visit, I made it a focus to have the African-American studies as part of my curriculum. you know, and while I was in junior college and also while I was through life, I have to focus that energy on African-American studies. And you guys don't know that I have a background in that, as well as my art. And that would make me a stronger person to be able to have that influence in my art.
And give us a little bit more information about that.
Well, Pan-Africanism was introduced on the world stage by W.D. Du Bois when he won in Paris, when he went there to the what was the big expo that happened in Paris during that time. And so even part of that narrative was in my door that I did for Echoes of Our Journey with our centennial exhibition there at Gallery Guichard. So it was a take on what, and his collage work was a big influence. So like a lot of scholars or people that read about Du Bois, they only associate him with the NAACP, right? But they're not associating him with his art and what he did with the Pan-African movement, you know, and what he did in Berlin and what he did in Ghana, you know, when he was going there to study. So with me reading his background, a lot of, again, his influence is in the work that I do, especially the collage and social justice work.
So I believe that piece was created before the recent riot in DC. And I was curious about a lot of the parallels with the riots after Reconstruction and what we're seeing now at our Capitol. How do you feel today's reality reflects upon your work that you created and the work that you do in general in terms of the full circle?
Well, I had to reflect back to, like, one of the center icons in that piece was Aki Sanye, and he was named Mark Teamer. He was an artist, prolific artist that I grew up with in Fresno, Sacramento, and he's in Long Beach now. Well, he was part of the Panther movement and served time in jail. When leaving Fresno, California, and going up to Sacramento to finish my studies, that's the state capitol. That's where the Panthers came in. I know you guys have a different Panther, you know, here in Chicago, but the Panther movement that I was about in California, out of Oakland, you know, out of the Bay Area, well, they came to Huey Newton and they came to the state capitol bearing arms, right? Everybody knows that story.
Right.
And they annihilated the Panther movement. Right? They went annihilated, killed, flooded in drugs into that whole, you know, into Oakland, you know, to just kill off and annihilate. But looking at 2021 and what just happened, I didn't see an annihilation of people that showed up at the state capitol. You know what I mean? They just went in and ravaged and did what they wanted to do. You know, and then everyone talks about the parallels of, well, what happened when Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter didn't come up there radically attacking and threatening to lynch and kill the Speaker of the House and even the Vice President, right? You know, so in the works, you have to talk and tell the narratives. And my platform was, and is from, you know, that part of the Panther movement that showed the community the history of where we were and the cause of that.
Art speaks truth.
Yes.
And you have to tell the story. It's her story.
And 3/16/61, that was the difference in arrests from the Capitol recently and the arrests at the Black Lives Matter peaceful march. They had 316 arrests versus 61 so far. So it's unfortunate. There's another piece that is in the exhibit, and it resembles Spike Lee. Is that intentional, or is that just because we have a lot of features that we share amongst our community?
No, that's Spike Lee. I went down to New Orleans for the Mardi Gras, you know, that was like maybe 20 years ago when I first went down, and he was the Grand Marshal of the Zulu Parade. And so I have a couple of works on paper of him. I'm not even a photographer. I didn't even have a press pass. One of the guards just, you know, the troops just moved the fence for me, you know, and so that I could get in the street and take a picture, you know, with my little Polaroid. That's before cell phones or whatever, you know. of him on the float. So that was from my own lens of him in the parade. And he does support New Orleans. You know, he's been the Grand Marshal for, you know, for over the decades. He's been the Grand Marshal, you know, of the parade.
Yes,
So that's
thank
it.
you, another amazing creator.
Right, right.
Thank you.
I want to know a little bit about that piece behind you. It's a nice
Yes.
sculpture. It's beautiful. And I know there's a lot of, you know, content in the, you know, production of that. So tell us a little bit about that sculpture and when did you start doing sculptures?
Well, I've done sculpture all along, and in my bios, and one of the things I really haven't, that's why when I did the door, and I always go back to the door, I got a chance to see some of that was a relief work that was done, but a lot of times I don't really get a chance to show my sculpture work. And I do say I'm a sculpture installation artist, and I've made huge sculptures in the past. This particular piece is part of a, you know, like altar. Like altar society, you know, and the actual ceramic piece I did years ago, and it was part of a pot, and it was a raku firing. And when I was in California, and I haven't had the opportunity since being here in Illinois, but there I was working in part of a group and collective called Visual Arts Development Project. And we would go up into the foothills and actually dig up the clay dirt and then transform that into sculpture. In some of the studios up there, and we would do raku ground firings. So that's a sculpture that was from there, found objects. And the sculpture that's underneath, and I can't really show I'll pull it up later so you can have a more, you know, a view of it. But the piece that's underneath that, and I found that sculpture was like the shape of Africa, you know, that's underneath us. And I put that on the altar as a reversal. And created, you know, all of that is found objects that's on there. And so it's part of an altar installation. And I was doing that with an artist online on Zoom, you know, during, we were doing the solstice and we were all doing these prayers for 40 days. So as they were getting up, God knows, 5 o'clock, whatever in the morning, I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll work on a sculpture, you know, and make that part of the altar part of the project. But I do have done sculpture installations in the environment, in national parks. I have some things out in Maryland and Prince George County. Out in California, I have some sculpture that are part of the landscape, you know. Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, as always, Alpha, it is a treat to pick your brain and find the stories behind your artwork, but also the wide array of art talents that you have. And we want to thank you for your contribution, not only to this exhibit, but the Bronzeville art community as a whole.
All right, thank you guys too for all the work that you're doing. And I'm going to try to do a closer look at that sculpture.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
beautiful, yes.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
Interesting. And that is part of what's special about this, because not only can you enjoy the amazing work now during our art talk, but you can drop right down into the gallery and visit it in the virtual exhibition catalog. It's easy as 1, 2, 3, and it lives 24/7. So you can move around, touch the circles on the floor, and then make sure you touch the meta tag, because those small circles will allow you to see the price and information about all the work. And that's really
Where can you find that? On our website at www.galleryguichard.com, and you can go right to the vertical exhibition catalogs that are on the link.
excellent. Take care, Alpha. See you soon.
All right.
Amazing. Thank you.
Great work. Our next artist is my brother, Adam Geishard. He also grew up in the same house that I did, with a father who painted throughout our childhood, painting and sculpting. And Adam's new work actually involves 2 series, an abstract series that is part of his Kaleidoscope series, non-objective abstract, as well as his social justice work, I Am a Man, and how appropriate with the inequalities that we're still seeing today. Welcome back. I'm Andre Geishard, and you're here virtually for Vertical Exhibition Catalog number 10.
And I'm Frances Geshard.
And we're happy to introduce our final artist for this amazing exhibition, This Is Us, and very honored to introduce my brother, Adam Geishard. He, of course, grew up in the same house I did with a father who painted and sculpted, and just happy to talk about these two new series that are being introduced in this exhibition. So without further ado, Adam Geishard.
Hi, Adam.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here today, and most importantly, I'm happy to talk about where my art came from, and growing up in the same house as Andre, and just how that influenced me to become an artist today. But in particular, I'm gonna talk to you about two new artworks that I have available at the gallery.
Excellent, excellent. Well, actually, it's three artworks, two from the Kaleidoscope series and one from your social justice. So why don't we jump right into the social justice piece? I am a man, given what's going on in real life. I mean, art imitates life, or it's a 360 with the capital. How do you feel as it relates to what that piece means for you and what's happening in terms of the parallel reality that we're living in?
And Andre, I'm glad you started with that artwork. It actually, I started working on that artwork 6 years ago, and it started in one direction. A good friend of mine, his father was actually in the picture of the demonstration in Memphis, and I had the opportunity to meet this person. One thing that stood out to me when I talked to my friend's father was, I thought, like, all the people in those demonstrations, they were older. It was always just one focus. Everybody knew what they're doing. But to make a long story short, after speaking to my friend's father, I saw that everybody that marched pretty much had it there. I mean, it was all for the goal of civil rights, but they all had their own focus. And one aspect that I tried to pick up in that piece is, if you look at that picture, everybody kind of looks different. You know, some people look like they're the organizers, where other people just look like they kind of walked up and picked up a sign. But that's not to say that that person who was the organizer is better than that person that walked up with the sign. It's more of, we all need to pick up our signs and do our part. And that was truly the basis of that picture, where you have some people kind of looking shy, where you have some people they're very determined. But I think I appreciate that it took me so long to make that picture, because I finished the picture around the elections, and it was this Detroit poll worker who stated, because we know there's a lot of just controversy going on in Detroit around the election time, where he said, we went from picking cotton to picking presidents. And I rarely write comments in my painting, but they kind of just, I heard it as I was walking across the room, but it just stopped me in my tracks, where I was like, hey, I got to use that in the painting. I didn't know where or what, but at the time I was finishing the piece and it needed a little something, so I added that on there. But really, I just want to focus in on the fact that the rights that they were fighting for then, we need to be as determined and fight for them now. Because even though the problems are different and we have gained rights, it's still a lot of, what can I say, a lot of things to accomplish. And I don't think we need to be settled in where we are, but just use the efforts of our relatives in the past to use that as a stepping stone to help our children in the future.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, it's so unfortunate that here we are still talking about these issues, and you started that 6 years ago, and it really has now bubbled to the surface, and you know, it's so relevant to today. I noticed within your work you have multiple layers. So tell us a little bit about why you're using multiple layers. And to me, it feels like it's in movement, in motion.
Sure. For me, the reason why I use a lot of layers, in particularly with my Kaleidoscope series, and you can see a Kaleidoscope series artwork behind me. This series, I want to represent making something out of nothing. And I think, like, just like most people, we are layered people, and there's so many different layers to us. Where one of the paintings that I have there is called Constant Motion, where it's just about creating your own imagery, even though you may have a lot of things going on in your occurring in your life, but just being able to always have that constant motion. And being an artist in particular, if you look in the picture, you'll see a lot of different faces, kind of. No matter if you have it, no matter which way you have it hung. So what I wanted to represent through that is just creating your own reality. A lot of people try to say you're this or you're that, but ultimately it's a picture that you create out of the cards you were dealt that makes you you. So that's kaleidoscope, and why I try to use a lot of different layers.
So I have two questions. My second is about the kaleidoscope series, but my first is about the I Am a Man and the image or images. For me, it really reminds me of a painting I grew up with in our house where our dad did a self-portrait. And I don't know if that was intentional, that the men kind of favor our father. Is that intentional or unintentional?
That might just be subconscious. You grew up looking at something all your life and you say, oh no, that had nothing to do with this painting. But hey, that might be one of the central aspects of where things started. So, or just a play on a thought, because there's a lot of different characters in that artwork.
One of them does. In the painting, I don't know if you have it or Aniel has it, but it's a picture of him and he has on a tie. Do you have that in your collection?
Yep.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. You have to send me a picture of that, because I just had a flashback from my childhood, and it kind of, but I think that's a valid point about even when I used to do my work, I would use myself as a subject a lot. So that's interesting how generationally our father has found himself in your work. And then as it relates to the kaleidoscope work, I really am just impressed of how you, over the past 15 years, been able to evolve that fingerprint to a unique fingerprint of shapes and colors that speaks specifically to you. What was the initial motivation of that series?
Just creating your own destiny, creating something out of nothing. That's a whole gist of it. Like whoever purchased those kaleidoscope pictures, ideally I would think it would be more for a creative, or someone like an entrepreneur, someone who's always has to reproduce themselves, or just come up with a new product every time and
reinvent yourself.
Reinvent yourself,
yeah, kind of like reinventing yourself is what you
exactly, and kind of like being an artist. Where, for instance, like you said, after, or you had mentioned that you're going to paint after this, so it's just having that inspiration to make a new artwork. That at some point can take a lot, because coming up with these images, you could be depleted, but to be in a space where you can be what can I say, be able to create and constantly create. That's what I want the viewer to take from this artwork. Just as motivation to be able to continue that.
I love it.
To continue to be creative.
Continue to be creative.
That's right.
Yeah, I love your work. I love your inspiration. And I love the story about you and Andre growing up in a household with your dad. Tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with, your dad in the household who was painting, and then an older brother who was painting, and, how that did inspire you, but also how it helped you create your own fingerprint, because you have your own unique fingerprint.
So Andre and my experience are different. And this is what I mean when I say that. Andre actually saw my father paint more. By the time I came around, there were a lot of paintings in the house, but my dad really didn't paint. He did, but rare that I noticed. I could count the times on my hand that I physically have seen him paint in my life. Where Andre's experience, he physically saw him create the paintings they were on the wall when I was growing up. So it was kind of different, but what I'll say, I really didn't get the art bug till when I was in my 20s, where what I would say with Andre, growing up with Andre, I remember playing in the backyard with my friends, and we were, I think, playing like piggy or some baseball in the back. And all I remember is chasing my one friend, and I told him to jump over this canvas. And so he jumps over the canvas. And right before I'm about to jump, Andre was on the roof of the house throwing painted tennis balls at this canvas. So he literally, I almost literally got hit by the
wet tennis ball.
Young Pollock.
So me and my buddy were like, "What's going on?" And we look up on the roof, and we see Andre with like a bucket, with like all these tennis balls, just throwing them at the canvas. We thought it was like the craziest thing in the world. So I didn't start painting until I graduated from Howard University. And initially when I started painting, it was, it was copying off Andre. It was using his style, but more with my thoughts per se. And being an artist, you have to do what's comfortable for you. So of course I was copying Andre's work, but it wasn't so much comfortable. That's comfortable for Andre, but over time and just, it's really just creating. I would say to any young artist that's out there that's like, I can't stand this work, I would say, don't throw it away. But second, just understand art is a process. Sometimes you have to make 3 to 4 different artworks to get to where you are. And the reason I would say that is from my own story, where it took me maybe a good 20 paintings before I started developing my own style. But by the time I was able to do that, currently I create 9 different art styles from, just things that I feel is being comfortable. Another reason is I can never not create something. For instance, like if I make 20 different kaleidoscope artworks and I'm like, man, I cannot think of another artwork, I can jump to my jazz series or, just on and on and on. I can play that back and forth. So I think growing up in the same house as Andre and my dad, it was probably one of the best experiences I could have, just being introduced to artwork. And we also have a older cousin who was into art that influenced me and Andre. And as I look back, I'm like, man, that was an amazing experience. But sometimes it just takes hindsight and age to realize, what the great experience you had.
Right. William Dawson.
The premier outsider artist in Chicago, and our mom used to come home with sculptures and mixed media works he had done and say, one day this is going to be worth a lot of money, and she was right. And I want to, before we close out, if we could unravel the onion a bit more on the kaleidoscope work, in particular the evolution of it and how the mixed media objects that you place in there, and what is the meaning of those 3-dimensional forms, because they're so intriguing, almost like a diamond or something. It's kind of mystical, and I'm curious as the relationship to the work, or are they symbols that mean something?
That's a good question, and I'm actually glad you asked that before you left off. Well, for me, they mean a certain thing. Like the gold, it points to richness, the blood, some type of heartache, while the silver, more of a foundation. So, I place them in different places on the artwork to have some type of relevant semblance. But one thing I've learned over the years, whatever my semblance means for me, the viewer or the person looking at the artwork has a totally different view. But that's what I like about my artwork. I have a meaning, but I want every viewer to have their own, because I can press my own thoughts on someone and they'll say, no, Adam, it's this, this, and this. And at the end of the day, as long as my artwork inspires someone, and that's ultimately why I make it. I make it because I do enjoy it. But ultimately, I want whoever purchases my artwork to be inspired every day, and that to be a conversation piece for years to come. So the symbols, they have various meanings, but I don't want to take the heavy hand and saying like this is this and that's it. Where I'd rather appreciate more if people see those symbols and just make their own meaning. you know.
And that, I mean, there's a story that created the inspiration for you to create it, but you help people to see things. And I think, to your point, as a non-objective artist, having a series like that, it's fun to see what your art does in terms of provoking thought and kind of that conversation of inspiration, because then they help you see things you didn't even see in your own work.
Correct, right. And most of the time, I find myself in that situation where I'm explaining our work and I'm going back and forth with someone. And I'm like, wait a second, I didn't even realize that. And that can be a momentous moment, you know.
Right.
And I like that you're prolific in that. I hear, sometimes we'll talk to our clients and they love your work, yours and Andre's, and your work is in a lot of collections.
Lots of collections.
And it's, really making a difference in people's lives, especially during this time, during wellness, when people need that to feel really good, and your work in their homes really make them feel great.
Yes, I mean, the social justice just inspires you, but that kaleidoscope work, it just has such a feel-good feeling about it. Just like when you were a kid, you look through the kaleidoscope and you see all the colors. I love how your work in that series is very uplifting, and everyone can see both of these pieces, actually all three of these pieces, on the new virtual exhibition catalog number 10. You can go to our website.
Yes, at www.galleryguichard.com. See more Adam's work.
And you can drop in virtually 24 hours a day, and you can move around by pressing the circles on the floor. And when you get onto the work, the meta tag, if you press it, will allow you to get the information about the title, medium, artist, etc. And take the tour. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Drop down into Gallery Guichard virtually and explore the new exhibition by touching the circles on the floor to move around, and then next to each painting, the meta tag will give you information about the title, medium, artist, and price, etc. But Adam, all I can say is your dad is probably up there just turning over in his grave, having a ball that we're talking about art, that the inspiration started with him just expressing himself, and how art has always been uplifting and about wellness, because growing up in a house like we did, living with art has really changed our lives, as we can see. We're still manifesting it.
And I think he's still here with us.
All the time.
That's right.
Putting his hand in your work, sometimes he'll just correct stuff if you don't want to do it right.
hey, tell him I have 3 paintings he needs to correct my hand with.
So put his hand on those.
Right. Make up for lost time.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say make up for lost time,
Right, exactly. Well, of course, Adam, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you as one of our Gallery Guichard artists and your unique fingerprint. And we invite everyone to learn more about you and your work in this catalog, and on the website. You can see more information about Adam and his biography and other works that he's created in multiple series. So
it's been great talking to you, Adam.
That's right.
Same here, same as usual.
Always learning new information.
Yes.
Yeah, this is good. Now I realize, he was just a sponge sucking up stuff. I thought he was just a little kid. He was taking it all in. I'm stuff from him.
I didn't listen to anything.
All right, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Good seeing you.
And I'd like to introduce to you my life partner, business partner, and amazing artist, Andre Geishard. He's been around for a long time, painting over 25 years, and is in international and national collections. Take a look at Andre Geishard.
Hello, my name is Andre Geishard, artist of 27 years now, from Chicago, born and raised on the South Side, and I'm very excited to be able to participate in today's exhibition, This Is Us. And the works that I selected for this exhibit speak to who we are as Chicagoans, or my experience as a Chicagoan, which involve 3 things: Lake Michigan, which I adore and has always been an inspiration. So the first piece is City of Big Shoulders, and it is a skyline of Lake Michigan, but the use of canvas as line actually gives you the feeling of the robust waves and the fact that the relationship between the sun and the water is different every day, and of course, what the skyline does and means for me growing up thinking about the possibilities. So that's one of This Is Us, because in its expression of Chicago, but then there's also the Chosen Few Picnic, which is also a Chicago phenomena of house music being founded in Chicago. I remember in high school, just as New York can claim rap music, we get to claim house music. And this is the grandeur of every summer from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. There's a house music party in the middle of Hyde Park with over 50,000 people, and this painting expresses it, and I'm using ground iron to express the individual party goers, and then the DJ is, of course, bringing the energy, and one of the Chosen Few House Picnic DJs was the inspiration. The last piece is a piece from my jazz series, which was inspired by my grandfather, Acrylic Guichard Sr. He was a famous jazz musician in New Orleans, and he played live for the radio in the early 30s and migrated to St. Louis, where he was recruited and featured in Eddie Randall and the Blue Devils band, which would later be the same band that Miles Davis would start in. So knowing my history has inspired me to create another piece from one of my longest running series, the jazz series, and Oh So Saxy speaks to the elegance of the sax and how the relationship between the musician and the instrument, and I'm using canvas here again to create the feeling of the music and the vibration. So once again, I'm honored to be able to participate with these amazing artists, and I'm Andre Geshard, and thank you for allowing me to touch you with my creativity. Once again, I'm very excited after 27 years to still be able to create work for exhibitions. These works have all been acquired by Sonia Salm, a local attorney here in Chicago, and this is the work that she will lift herself up in her office downtown, but now, because of quarantine, I'll be enjoying these works, and Sonia knows what I mean, for a little while. But thank you again for allowing me to share and touch you with my creativity. I'm Andre Geshard, and we'll see you next month. Our next artist we'd like to introduce is all the way from Alabama, Martin Arnold, and his subject is the beauty of the African American woman. Without further ado, Martin Arnold. Welcome back. This is Andre Geichard, virtually at Gallery Guichard for our This Is Us exhibition.
I'm Frances.
And we have one of our longtime gallery artists, but this is the first time that he's been able to be with us in person, virtually, via the virtual exhibition catalog.
Yes.
So we're very excited about that because Martin Arnold lives in Alabama. So for years we've enjoyed his work, and now you and our guests have the opportunity to get up close and personal and learn more about your work.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, Frances. Hi, Andre.
So Martin, tell us a little bit about your love for the subject matter of African American women and how you're able to capture the ghosts and the essence of their personality almost in the oil.
Well, what struck me about your gallery was the art that touches the soul. And that was really what the direction of my work. Some people paint to express themselves, or I paint to learn and to study, to try and get around the veneer and in between the ticks of the clock and find out what's going through a person's mind. And like, I think it was the quote anyway was that art without emotion is like chocolate cake without sugar. It makes
Wow.
That's so fun.
That's why I'm always shooting for an emotive connection with the viewer. And I want it to be like a communication between the viewer and my subject. Once I put the brush down and the painting is complete and the model changes into her street clothes, then I'm out of the picture. And it's now just about my subject and the viewer.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Your medium that you use and how you connect with your subject, because you're, like we said, you're really capturing the ghost, you're really capturing the emotive. And, you know, it shows no matter which way you look at it.
Well, thank you. That's the most flattering things anyone's ever said about my work. It's a collaboration between the subject and myself. We have to develop a pretty profound trust for each other in order for the facade, the veneer to drop away, and we can communicate. I can't show somebody the real person if I don't see it. And during the process, there's a lot of communication. And, through that, I learn more and more about the person. And I'm constantly trying to incorporate what I learn into the painting as I go. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry if I got off on a tangent.
And you're using oil, correct?
Yes, oil colors is my preference. Occasionally I'll do a black and white, just those two colors, and then I may use acrylics, and I sometimes get into watercolors.
Awesome.
And and I'm going to dive a little deeper because it's so intriguing. Your work almost makes you feel like you can mind read, or either you can understand their expression by looking at them, and I know what they're thinking almost. And getting to that level of comfort and relaxation, is that typically just their natural feeling in that moment, or are they posing for a feeling?
No, I try, and the expression changes over a sitting, and I try and capture the like the brief moments of expression that really go with the pose and the subject that I'm painting. And some of the other artists that I admire that work towards that is Tim Okamura in New York and Jeremy Mann. I'm really impressed with their work. And it's about communication.
Love it.
At every level. So
I know
thank you for the compliments. Go ahead.
One of our collectors who purchased your piece said she really felt, great she actually placed it in the hallway. So as she walks down the hallway, she sees her all the time. And she said she really connected with the piece because she had a spirit that really felt good within her home. And, I think that's important, that people feel, able to connect with the work. And that's what they're getting out of your work. I noticed the pieces behind you too are also pieces that, people can connect with, engage with. Tell us a little bit about those pieces, and then we can also talk about some of the work you have here in the gallery.
Okay, this painting right here, the black and white one, is one that culminated from I spent 6 weeks alone during the pandemic when my wife had to go to Michigan. And that's what came out of that 6 weeks. This other painting was a young girl out of high school that was very playful, and I kind of played on that. And yet there was a depth to her personality, which I wanted to allude to. And that was one of my most challenging pieces. That took me
Move to your yeah, move over just a little bit more so we can see the one in the center.
Oh, that's nice. The colors
Right.
are nice too.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
And then the last one?
This one here,
Yeah.
that was one I did a while back. She was Hispanic and not very communicative, but she there was a depth there also, and that's what intrigued me. And I tried to give an introspective approach to her personality. The background to all of these, all my paintings, is that scientists tell us we're 98 to 99% identical. And in that 1 or 2%, we're absolutely, totally unique. There'll never be another me or another you, which I find fascinating.
It is.
And I'm trying to play to both of those facts.
You know,
Awesome.
I love that you focused on that in particular, because the timeliness of right now with what's happening in the country and, you know, just I think where we're moving, that fact of 98, 99% is pretty high, given you see so much political division and things sometimes that there's really nothing for us to argue about. And the fact that you find beauty in all cultures and ethnicities, and you're able to express that, is another part of that question, which I think is, you know, what makes you such an amazing artist.
Well, thank you. I try and address that because the individual, all of us, we're connected, and we see divisions, they're different. And I think that's great, because I think it'd be very boring if we were all the same.
That's true.
And I don't get this idea. I grew up in a household where there was a moderate amount of bias. And then I think around 16, I began noticing that we're really not different at all.
That's so true.
Exactly.
And I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please. That is such an
Continue on.
inspiring point.
The friendships that I've had since that dawning, I think, gee, if I had maintained my aloofness, I would have missed out on a lot of very close friendships. And that was another. I feel that all bias and all prejudice is based on ignorance. And I try and stay away from ignorance of any sort. I just want to keep people around me that are good people and keep the ignorance and etc. beyond. I agree with you. The times we're going through, I don't know what to say. I'm frustrated.
It's frustrating, but
yes, very much so.
Hearing your inspiration and your focus in as a art career, because you didn't just start doing this because of political events, I think speaks volumes to art, hopefully art imitating life and more people embracing what you're saying, because it's just really so simple and we make it much harder than it has to be.
You put it perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and so I want to ask one more question, Martin. How long have you been painting, and where did you start? Where did you get your start?
Well, I've been painting since about 2005 or 2006. I thought I'd go into sculpture. I've told you before, I was design machinery for 37 years, and then my wife talked me into going back to school. And then I took a painting course, and he kept pushing me, and I kept working really hard at it. And now,
wow, that's impressive.
Very much so.
You have a hand like a 30, 40-year-old painter, meaning painting for 40 plus years. The way, the softness, and just the way you capture the ghosts.
It's very accomplished.
Very amazing. Yes. So congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Very
I think it's what makes an artist is we're constantly reaching. We know we'll never achieve perfection, but you're constantly reaching and striving for it.
You're so right.
You're so right. And partly why we're sometimes so hard on ourselves, because we're looking for, but the truth is there's someone for everything you create as long as you're true to yourself.
And your work sells, and it's amazing just to have, you know, the experience of working with you. So we really appreciate you and love working with you and look forward to working with you more.
And I'm even more excited that these work in this exhibit will be permanently documented in our virtual exhibition catalog number 10 for this exhibition, which will also eventually be archived in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City, which we're extremely excited about. So hats off to.
Congratulations, and thank you both very much. And I'm very honored.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And everyone can see these works in the catalog by going to virtual exhibit catalog number 10 on our website.
Catalog and take the tour. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Drop down into Gallery Guichard virtually and explore the new exhibition by touching the circles on the floor to move around. And then next to each painting, the matter tag will give you information about the title, medium, artist, and price.
So, thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Andre.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Great day and stay safe.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed our most recent virtual exhibition catalog number 10. This is us. It was great as always.
It was a great conversation with all 8 artists.
All 8, and our mission remains the same: to create platforms for artists and collectors to meet, even more importantly now during quarantine and extended quarantine and COVID, because having a space that has work that speaks to you, original work, is proving to be part of the remedy to make it through COVID with your sanity. So we're very excited that you could join us today. And remember, this is just the opening. Now it's your time to explore the virtual exhibit catalog number 10. This is us by dropping down into and exploring the virtual exhibit catalog. You can move around with the circles and touch the meta tag so that you can find information about the title, medium, and artist.
If you're interested in any of the work, you can contact us by going to our website at www.galleryguichard.com and email us the information regarding any of the pieces that you like.
We're very excited about the response to the virtual exhibition catalog. Our sales have actually increased during COVID because of the need. And again, see art, love art, buy art, live with original art. We'll see you during Black History Month. We have a great exhibition schedule planned. And then in March during Women's History. So look forward to some more great culture right here. Go Bronzeville.